My name's Rob Brazier. I'm Client Services Director at Rapiergroup.
Perfect. And today we're going to be talking about the agency awards. You are finalists for three awards and the Grand Prix award. So the first one is Event of the Year Association for PRI in Person 2025. Can you tell me a bit about that event?
Yeah, so PRI stands for Principles of Responsible Investment. So it's a members-based committee, and what they're doing is trying to promote responsible investment. So that kind of looks at where the community would be potentially investing and making sure that those investments are put forward into the correct organisations that have CSR responsibility.
Perfect. And that event took place ahead of COP30, and it brought together the global. Does that make sense? It brought together the investment
Yeah.
community. What made that moment strategically significant?
So it's a global traveling show. In the past, we've been to Toronto, and this year last year in 2025, they decided to go to São Paulo. They hadn't been there for 10 years, and I think it's really important that when you're doing a global event, that you actually choose some of the non-traditional locations. And
Yeah.
the reason they chose this one was because they wanted to bring the conversation surrounding sustainability ahead of COP30. And so what they want to do is kind of bridge the gap. So they invited the investment community to kind of bring the topics to the forefront before many of those attendees also then went on to COP30. And it's great that they decided to use that location as well, because it's making sure there's a legacy for that environment and making sure that those kind of conversations are happening in that local region.
And the event was designed to embody sustainability, inclusivity, and impact. How did you ensure that those values were embedded in proper, real decisions?
It's always working really collaboratively with our client. They actually have some of their own sustainability KPIs that they've set for their own events. And when we've been working with them now for a couple of years, we've tried to really kind of grow on that. So we took all of our best practice from Toronto and took that to Sao Paulo. And that kind of starts at the very beginning of actually through our supply chain, looking at local suppliers, getting people on the ground that have that local knowledge, working with the venue to kind of understand what they do as best practice
Yeah.
and kind of bringing what we have from our experience, and it goes through the entire supply chain. But on top of that, we actually designed the event with a circular design principles from the very, very beginning. So it's working in collaboration with our client, with the host venue, and then the entire supply chain to make sure it goes through every single touch point.
And finally, what would it mean to win the award for this event?
I mean, it's always great to win an award. That's kind of, we love it. But I think what it really is that recognition to that kind of like that collaboration I spoke before. It's not just about us as an agency,
Yeah.
but it's also working with our clients and the supply chain. And I think what's really lovely is we're a creative agency, but creative doesn't just mean it's our creative team in the design studio. It goes across every part of the business. So they're the creative problem solving that we do to deliver such a large global project. And that would be great to get recognition for that for everybody involved.
And you are also nominated or shortlisted for Event of the Year for Professional Services for Cybos 2025.
Yeah.
So that event brought together over 12,000 delegates from 168 countries. What is the key to delivering a human-centered event on that scale?
I think it's about actually really understanding what those attendees want out of that event and understanding what their key drivers are. Particularly for that one, it's all about having meaningful connections within the exhibition environment. There's a lot of pre-arranged meetings. So we kind of go right back to the user experience and the user journey and really map that out by all the different different personas of the attendees. And we try and make that whole experience completely frictionless. So looking at everything from queuing times and the catering, making sure there's pause times for people to take some time out, look after their well-being, but also then have authentic engagement. So for us, it's about understanding the entire journey to make sure that you can have those real meaningful connections during such a busy show.
And how do you balance the operational control and creative ambition in a event like that?
I think it's about really understanding what, again, once you've got that foundation of understanding what's really, really important, you then apply kind of not a weighting to it, but you can have a focus on where your investment and where people investment in terms of our spend, but
Yeah.
also investment in terms of the attendees and where they're spending their time. So we always have at the back of our mind those two key things to make sure that there's a commercial approach to it, but also making sure the user experience is amazing.
And you are also nominated, shortlisted for Public and Charity Event of the Year for the Mobility Scheme Live. Motability or Mobility?
It's Motability
Motability
Scheme
Scheme
Live.
Live
Yeah.
2025. So that event was centered around empowerment and accessibility.
Yeah.
Are you able to tell me a little bit more about that, and also what responsibilities agencies have when delivering events for specific communities like that?
But like you say, it's a very specific community, and we really took time to understand what that community wanted out of that event, and it's quite unique,
Yeah.
where they really trust the Motability brand because it's a very safe environment, and so we want to make sure we built upon that. So it's understanding maybe what those specialist mobility needs might be.
Yeah.
And so we kind of followed the footsteps of a delegate through their entire experience. So from the moment they arrived in the car in a car park, we actually had people there who would meet and greet to make sure that there was enough space for the doors to open, step-free access, and that's just the very start of the journey. But we mapped that all the way through to the main exhibition hall, like the networking opportunities, the educational piece, and we embed that throughout the entire environment that we created for them. And it's about being respectful and being able to make sure that that community can make the most out of that environment without feeling like pressured or have any kind of anxiety. And I think that's something that we've really done well.
And inclusivity and digital integration were embedded throughout the event. How did you make those principles fundamental rather than just seem like performance?
And I think it's about taking that kind of human first approach. Technology is absolutely amazing once it's applied correctly. This very specific audience, it was about making sure technology was there to kind of remove any kind of anxiety so people could plan their day. There was an app there so they could plan their journey, understand how to get around, and kind of book test drives in a completely unpressured environment. So it was all about supplementing that human experience and not actually dominating.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's quite a special and unique event. What would it mean to win Event of the Year for that?
Again, I think when we sometimes look across some of the awards and we look at events that either have a very high budget or there's a lot of AV technology or event tech involved, this is kind of really, like I say, going to like a human first approach. And I think it would be really lovely to see that entire creative journey that we've been on to make that such a trusted and an authentic environment for that specific client.
And because you are shortlisted for 3 awards, it also means that you are in the running for the Grand Prix award. What does that mean, and what value would it add to the agency if you were to win?
Awards are fantastic. We always like to say you're award-winning agency, but for me, it has to go back to people. Why are we all in this business?
Yeah.
We come here because it's all about that human interaction, about how people can make a difference. And I feel the team behind all of these events have made such a real difference, not only to our agency, but to all of our clients and the attendees that go to the events that have been nominated. So it would just be a huge validation and a great thank you for the whole team.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rob, and good luck at the awards.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.